Hi and welcome to SCW here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now. Leave any comments in the comment section. Please like and share the video as well. Night 1 of the 2021 WWE Draft is in the books. I'm going to give my reaction and going to give you all the results to all the draft picks as well towards the end of the video, so you need to stick around. I'll give my thoughts if there's any tweaks to my predictions of what I can see happening going into night 2. Now, some of the key points you should know just before we go into the results: the draft does not take full shape, so we don't get the new rosters until after Crown Jewel. So for the next 3 weeks, even after the draft is finished, we will still have the current rosters that we currently have. It will change to the new rosters after Crown Jewel with the first SmackDown afterwards, which, if I'm not mistaken, is October the 22nd. As well as that, we have the usual draft pool where we have obviously half of the roster which would be drafted on SmackDown and the other half drafted on Raw. The only problem is we didn't know which pool was which. We didn't know who was eligible for the shows, which I think would have given me more connection, if I'm brutally honest, because I could have looked at each draft pick and say to myself, this is a good draft pick compared to, oh, that superstar should have been picked higher in the draft. We didn't really have that connection. But on the flip side, obviously with only 16 names here picked in the draft on night 1, it leaves it wide open for Monday Night Raw. And I must admit, more than recent years, I am excited for night 2 of the draft, because once night 1 is usually complete, I think, oh, a lot of the big names have been taken. Let's see what's going on night 2. There is actually as much, if not more, excitement for night 2 for Monday Night Raw than there has been for multiple years. One other strange note as well: apparently on this evening, you're in pool 1 on SmackDown. If you're not drafted on this show, you can pick to be going to whichever show you want, which, I mean, doesn't make much sense. If anything, I'd think, well, I wouldn't want to be drafted because maybe I want to pick where I want to go. I could look at the roster, think, where's the best method for me to become the world champion? It doesn't really make a lot of sense, that part, and it was actually proven throughout the night, because Brock Lesnar said that Paul Heyman got it to the point that he was a free agent and was free to go wherever he chooses. So that for me makes a little bit of nonsense, but enough of the structure where I see some of the flaws in it. Let's look at the results, shall we? And like I said, Sonya Deville, Adam Pearce making 2 picks each for each round. Sonya doing the first pick for SmackDown, Adam Pearce doing the picks for Raw second. The first draft pick, ultimately overall, going to SmackDown is the head of the table, the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns, which for me makes the most sense. He is the #1 player in all of WWE right now. No doubt USA and Fox would have actually been making plays to try and get Roman on their show legitimately. It just goes to show here that Fox is seen with the preferential treatment. Roman has been doing outstanding work on SmackDown. I'm very pleased to see him remaining there, and it looks like he's going to have 1 or 2 fresh opponents to go against, which we'll go through later in the draft picks. But first one for Raw was Big E. Now, there has been some confusion over Big E's status. He is officially still a SmackDown superstar, even though they had to kind of move to Raw once he won the WWE Championship. He has appeared on both shows. We've now got clarity. Big E is a Raw superstar, is a WWE champion over there. I think this is great. I think Big E as the WWE champion is the #1 draft pick for Raw. This means he's the #1 guy over there. There's a lot of faith and stock being put in the name of Big E. He's only recently just got to the top of the mountain. It's good to see him in this position, especially from last year. I think it was a round 4 draft pick or something like that. Big E's come a long way in 12 months. It's good to see him in this position. A show could be built around him. Perhaps we're going to become this star of tomorrow. He's, of course, beaten Lashley multiple times. Probably going to beat Drew McIntyre before the sort of drafts take full shape going forward in 3 weeks' time. So Big E will have a couple of big wins under his belt, and we can build the new stars for the next generation of the years to come in WWE around on Monday Night Raw with Big E as its champion. So I'm kind of a fan of this move, I'm going to be brutally honest. The first big shock for me came then next on SmackDown, which is Charlotte Flair, the Raw Women's Champion. Of course, it gives her 3 weeks to lose the championship, but also I hate when we just swap the championships over. I find that's a bit messy. For me, why not have the case that the Raw Women's Champion is on SmackDown and the SmackDown Women's Champion is on Raw, and we have the Battle at Survivor Series? Maybe that could be a way there where then one of them gets to go on both shows for a little while. That certainly could be something that could be an interesting note. But Charlotte is the opportunity. I think she does fit SmackDown really well, that sort of sports orientated kind of superstar. She's not as sports entertainment, if you want. So yeah, I mean, for me, I'm kind of down with this. some fresh opponents there for her on SmackDown. So yeah, let's see what's going to come of it. But one that I was really looking forward to as an opponent for Charlotte has been traded the other way to Monday Night Raw, but is one I expected. It's Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair for me is, you know, a WrestleMania main eventer from this year from night one. This is a big coup from Raw as well to get Bianca in the draft. SmackDown had all the major players, so some will go to Raw. It just depends on which ones it will be, but you can build a show around Bianca Belair, and kind of like Big E, it's someone you can turn around and say, that's my #1 talent on this show. We can build a show around this superstar, and it's almost, we're building these stars up for what could be leading the company for the next 5 to 10 years. So I like that. We've kind of got the here and now on SmackDown with Reigns and Charlotte on their first draft picks, and we've got the future of Big E and Bianca Belair, the now and the future going forward. Let's go to round 2 of the draft then. SmackDown's first choice was Drew McIntyre. I think everybody and their nan predicted this one would happen, but yeah, it makes the most sense. And Drew is on the same brand as Roman Reigns going forward. This is definitely an inevitable feud that we're going to get. Drew even saying later in the show he was meant to be the chosen one on SmackDown, and his focus is going to be the Universal Championship. Now he's moved over from Monday Night Raw. So yeah, excited to see how that story is going to play out. Certainly makes a lot of sense to me. I hope they hold it off though until at least WrestleMania or SummerSlam season next year. Somehow highly doubt they'll wait that long. RK Bro will remain on Raw. I think this makes a lot of sense. The Raw Tag Team Champions to continue their story. I think they will be rivals into WrestleMania 38, and we will build a future star on Riddle. You see what we're doing here? And of course, you have that established star, Randy Orton, who can help build that star of tomorrow as well. The New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods are on SmackDown. I must admit, this is my first unhappy one, if I'm going to be honest. We've just reunited them with Big E. It made a lot of sense. We had some fun feuds that could be going forward with the Hurt Business. Also, you know, with the Bloodline. Okay, yes, from a tag team division perspective, it's totally fine, and it freshens things up for the New Day as well. They'll do some great work on SmackDown. But for me, separating from Big E, we had this controversy last year. We just brought them back together. Did we have to do it again? I'm not such a fan of that one. Edge going to Raw, I think that's a massive one as well. One of those stars from SmackDown going over to Monday nights. I'm really keen to see this. This for me makes me feel, I hope AJ Styles stays on Raw as well, because then we can have a dream match of those two. Could be quite fun to see. And I mentioned about building the stars of tomorrow. Like I say, you need 1 or 2 of these established stars to help make that. Edge is another one of those, along with Randy Orton, that Raw has. So we're getting a nice looking Raw roster so far. Certainly more improved than what we've had in recent times. So yeah, I'm a fan of this draft move as well. Going into pool 3, we've got Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss. That's right, forget Riddick Moss, it's Madcap Moss. For me, I'm not a fan of this. It's become a crap gimmick so far, hasn't it? Let's be honest, since Madcap Moss has come to it. They're just laughing everywhere. What happened to the Corbin we were enjoying around SummerSlam season? Everyone when Happy Corbin debuted. It's been hard to watch TV the last 2 weeks. I really hope that this isn't going to be the future direction for this, but SmackDown feels like an actual fit, and as a show, Corbin always feels like SmackDown is his place to be. So in that sense, as a draft pick, that does make sense, and I'm a fan of that. Nikki Ash and Rhea Ripley, the Women's Tag Team Champions, remain on Raw. Now, of course, Charlotte Flair going over to SmackDown. This makes sense for them to be away from her in the draft. I'm hoping Becky Lynch goes over to Raw now, because that way we can definitely have a feud with Becky against these two at some point in singles matches. That would definitely be fun to see. Plus, Rhea Ripley against Bianca Belair. Just think about that for a moment. Really big fan of this draft move. As well as that, Hit Row have come from NXT. They've been called up to SmackDown. Of course, I'm heavily rumored they will get called up in the draft. I did believe it would be to Raw, but actually I'm quite happy it's on SmackDown. I have more faith in the booking on SmackDown, so Hit Row. This gimmick just works, you know, with the music artists and that being in a stable. They feel like they fit together as well. I mean, Swerve Scott is the NXT North American Champion. Perhaps I need to give that belt up. Perhaps we could lose it to Carmelo Hayes in NXT 2.0. Have to wait and see. You've got Top Dollar Adonis, who, you know, could probably go for the tag team titles, perhaps at some point on SmackDown. As well as that B-Fab, I mean, she's great as well. I mean, just to hear her on the mic, she's fantastic with that, and perhaps with more experience as well, she'll be great in ring as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Hit Row bring to the table on SmackDown going forward. To finish off round 3 of the draft picks, we had Keith Bearcat Lee drafted to Raw. I still think this could be a sleeper pick in the long run, because Keith Lee, in my opinion, has the potential to be the top guy in WWE if booked correctly. There are rumours now with this, you know, Bearcat comeback, going to be more of a heel run going forward. He was booked like a monster on Raw this past week. I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen, and just think about Big E versus Keith Lee in a match for the WWE Championship, perhaps in 3 to 6 months' time. I really want to see that. So yeah, this for me ticks a lot of the boxes. I'm actually quite excited for this draft pick. Final round of draft picks for night one then. SmackDown kicking off with Naomi, which for me, this solidifies that the Usos should be on SmackDown because Roman Reigns is there, Naomi as well is there also. So even though the Usos were not drafted on this night, I imagine they will be. And looking at Naomi herself, I'm enjoying the storyline going on with Sonya Deville. I think that's really, really cool. And also, we've not had Naomi versus Charlotte Flair in a program as well. Could that be something that could be a future championship program later down the line, WWE? I personally would like to see it if we could build Naomi up into that position. I think it'd be really cool. I mean, she's a former SmackDown Women's Champion after all. Rey and Dominic Mysterio going to Raw. Of course, we hopefully get the breakup with those two then on Monday night. So I was surprised to see that they went to Raw, but at the same time, I think this could be quite cool. And now really hope with Hit Row going to SmackDown as well. This means we'll get Legado del Fantasma on Monday nights to start off a feud with the Mysterios, and then that perhaps could be what breaks Dominic up from them. Maybe even Dominic could even join Legado del Fantasma. That could be a fun, unique, interesting twist as well. But yeah, I'm feeling this the more that I actually talk about this idea. SmackDown getting Jeff Hardy, I think it's self-explanatory. Jeff Hardy's done some of his best work in WWE on the SmackDown brand, has been a world champion on that brand as well. I don't expect that this time round, but I do expect Jeff Hardy will at least get TV time, probably be pushed in towards the mid-card. No more 24/7 championships, no more stuck on main event. I think Jeff Hardy will be at least treated with the respect he should be on SmackDown. Remember when he was there this time last year, he was actually main eventing shows against Sheamus and sort of bar brawls and stuff like that. So yeah, I think Jeff Hardy will have more of a prominent role to play now in WWE. And I would like to see Jeff Hardy versus Roman Reigns, even if it's just a weekly episode of SmackDown. I think that'd be a fun match to watch. Last one to be picked, and also from NXT, is Austin Theory, taken away from The Way. He was one of the more entertaining members of The Way, so I'm kind of disappointed on that sort of way, but at the same time, Austin hasn't been around in NXT for a while. He has been doing dark matches on Raw and SmackDown before the show's been going on air, so I'm interested in what WWE's plans are for him. I can see him being on main event for the short term, but this is someone for me that I think would have actually fitted NXT 2.0 in the long term because he's a young gun, that sort of style that you want to push, but WWE must see something in him to put him as the now. So let's see what he brings to Raw. I hope he doesn't get lost in the shuffle. He's been put as the last draft pick on this show, so that way you look at it and say, well, there's perhaps not the biggest expectation on the shoulders. We're going to start slow and steady, and we're going to see where and how it develops over the next 12 months. So that's the results there. To be honest, overall, I'm quite satisfied with what I've seen so far. I feel the rosters have been evenly sort of spread out, and like I say, I do see, like with the champions at the top there for SmackDown, obviously SmackDown has both women's championships right now. That leads me to believe Becky could be on her way to Raw. Of course, like we say, we've got things to shape up as well for the next few weeks over television. Someone can always lose their championship on their weekly show, so and there is time for ways for things to play themselves out, so for that I'm kind of okay with that at this particular time, but it does bring questions, which I think is quite interesting. You want to have questions going into the next TV show, and also like we've got with the Usos, Roman Reigns unhappy that they weren't drafted on SmackDown on this show. From what I'm aware of, from the way it was described, they're obviously in pool 2 on Raw. So yeah, the idea is for Paul Heyman to make sure they get drafted to SmackDown, or perhaps maybe to not get drafted at all, so they can pick that they go back to SmackDown. But personally for me, I almost hope in a way that they're drafted to Raw, just because we can get a bit of drama, and maybe that way Paul Heyman needs to do the persuasion to make a trade happen during the show, because I think that's what could make these drafts more interesting, is have a bit of story depth going in throughout the night. Maybe someone's not happy that they're drafted. We see the locker room, the rosters, how we did in the old days, where they'd react to where they were drafted. Some of them would be happy that they're drafted, some would be angry that they've gone to the other show. I'd like to see those reactions brought in, and perhaps even with NXT as well. If an NXT call-up is called up, perhaps we see something that they're, perhaps all the NXT superstars are together. Maybe there's a celebration with someone like Austin Theory who gets to go to the next level. Maybe they're happy to see the back of Hit Row, a group that could dominate the whole roster. Do you know what I mean? Where they're celebrating, Hit Row are also celebrating, but not together, if you know what I mean. So that sort of stuff I'd like to see going into the next show. But looking at potential draft changes, I can see Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins now going over to Monday Night Raw. I think that could be a direction for them. I now have a feeling that Sasha Banks will remain on SmackDown, and of course that would be interesting because her and Charlotte have not been in a program for nearly 5 years. It'd be interesting to see if they do that again. Asuka is going to be a very interesting one because I said she needs to be on a different brand to Charlotte, but obviously she's had many matches with Rhea Ripley previously as well on Raw, and I hate her to be stuck in the mid-card. I want her to have a prominent role whichever show she ends up on. Bobby Lashley and the Hurt Business also are one to keep an eye out for. I still believe they will go to SmackDown. I don't think there'll be any change there. And as for NXT call-ups, I still expect Legado del Fantasma. I expect LA Knight. I have a feeling Aaliyah and Dakota Kai will be called up during this draft, depending on which shows they end up on. I still hope Imperium get the call as well. It was a bold prediction, but it's not one I'm holding much hope on, but certainly think it could be a game changer, especially if they were put on the Raw side. But that's my thoughts and feelings with the WWE Draft Night 1 anyway, the results and my reaction. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below right now. Looking forward to interacting with you. Keep an eye out for the channel as well for all more draft results as well. You can go and still watch my predictions as well, because quite a few of them did come through. A couple of them didn't, but certainly a number of superstars haven't been drafted yet that I've talked about. See if I get that right. It's worth going and checking that video out. And don't forget to keep an eye out for Night 2 as well. The reaction will be here on the channel. Hope you enjoy. Hope you enjoy Raw. And I'll see you for the Q&A beforehand here on SCW. Take care.